73 combined points from your big three, national television, your own building, a sold-out crowd shaking the arena, and an opponent that won only 10 games last season, and Indiana still walked away with a loss. The Fever fell to the Dallas Wings 107-104 in overtime, and that is what makes the ending so frustrating. It was not because Caitlin Clark disappeared. It was not because Kelsey Mitchell came up short. It was not because Aaliyah Boston failed to deliver. The Stars gave Indiana almost everything you could reasonably ask for on opening night, and that is why the defeat hit so hard. Kelsey Mitchell erupted for 30 points, going 11 of 22 from the field and 6 of 7 at the line. When the offense slowed down in the third quarter and the rhythm started to wobble, she attacked downhill, created shots, and carried the scoring load exactly the way a lead scorer is supposed to. Aaliyah Boston may have played one of the most complete games of her Fever career. She finished with 23 points on 9 of 14 shooting, added 7 assists, punished double teams with smart reads, stepped out to hit from deep, and looked completely in control of every possession around the paint. Her chemistry with Caitlin Clark in the pick and roll was sharp, balanced, and dangerous. Then there was Clark, who opened her season with 20 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the free throw line. There were stretches where her court vision sliced open the Dallas defense, and her willingness to attack the rim showed real growth. Indiana's Stars showed up. They produced. They created winning-level offense, and that is what leaves the hardest question hanging in the air. How do you get that kind of production at home, under that kind of spotlight, and still let the game slip away in overtime?
Off in this game, and you lost to a team that won 10 games last year in your own building. And somebody please explain to me 2 things. Number 1, defensive guru? Stephanie White's a defensive guru? You gave up 107. A C note plus 7 at home.
Last night, Caitlin Clark added another historic milestone to her young career. She officially became the 6th fastest player in WNBA history to reach 1,000 career points, the fastest point guard ever to get there, and the fastest player in league history to reach 1,000 points, 250 rebounds, and 250 assists. That is not just elite production, that is generational territory. Was her shot exactly where she wanted it? Not quite. She finished 2 of 9 from 3, and the off-season shooting work did not fully click in this opener. Part of that looked like natural rust after missing the 2025 postseason, and part of it was Dallas doing exactly what opponents will keep trying to do all year: get physical, crowd her space, and force tough contested looks. But the most important number from Clark's night was not the shooting percentage. It was the plus-minus. Even with the cold perimeter shooting, she finished +2. The big three combined for 73 points. That should usually be enough to win at home. So how did the game slip away? That is where the real story begins, because the answer was not with the starters. It was with what happened when the bench entered the game.
Fastest point guard to do so. So the fastest point guard to ever reach 1,000 points. Also, she is the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 1,000 points, 250 rebounds, 250 assists. Caitlin Clark is generational. That's pretty badass. Fastest player ever to do 1,000, 250, and 250 plus.
The second unit numbers are where the game starts to sharpen into focus. Sophie Cunningham logged 25 minutes and 30 seconds and finished with 3 points. She hit her lone three-pointer, but for a veteran brought in to add spacing, energy, and physical edge, the overall offensive impact stayed limited. Lexi Hull returned from a hamstring injury and played 14 minutes and 55 seconds, going scoreless while adding 1 rebound and 1 assist. Given how important her perimeter shooting is alongside Caitlin Clark, some early rust was noticeable. Raven Johnson played 11 minutes and 38 seconds, scoring 2 points, while Tyasha Harris saw only 4 minutes and 27 seconds without recording a shot attempt. When you stack those minutes together, the broader issue becomes clear. It was not that one player had a bad night. It was that the second unit never found enough offensive rhythm to steady the game when the starters needed support. Over the course of a tight opener, that lack of bench production becomes one of the biggest reasons the margin swung the other way.
Hines Allen, forget about it. Forget about it. I was like, are you serious? We did this? We signed this player? Not good. The big three, let's just be honest. When you score 20, 23, and 30, your big three just went off at home.
it all up and the math becomes hard to ignore. The bench unit of Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hull, Raven Johnson, and Tyasha Harris combined for just 5 points on 1 for 6 shooting across 56 total minutes. That is nearly a full game's worth of floor time from 4 rotation players producing only 5 points. When a game slips away by narrow margins, that kind of second unit output becomes impossible to ignore. It was not simply about Caitlin Clark missing threes or late possessions from Aaliyah Boston. The bigger issue was that the starters generated enough offense to keep the team in position, but the bench never created enough support to sustain momentum. Credit also belongs to the Dallas Wings. Head coach Chris Cocklenaze had his group prepared. Paige Bueckers controlled tempo, and Arik Ogunbowale delivered when the game tightened. But from the Fever side, the rotation decisions naturally become the focus. Shatori Walker-Kimbrough did not play, despite strong preseason scoring, while Harris saw only limited minutes. Those are the kinds of choices that become magnified when the second unit struggles to generate offense. That is why the post-game conversation is not just about one missed shot or one late possession. It is about whether head coach Stephanie White found enough answers from the bench when the game started to turn.
We talk about this team. Depth, front office, depth, lack of length, depth. The second team is not good. Your bench, not very good.
During the third quarter, concern swept through Fever fans when ESPN sideline reporter Holly Rowe noted that the training staff appeared to be working on Caitlin Clark in the tunnel. Moments later, Clark returned to the bench wearing a large heating pad around her lower back, and later Grant Young reported that she went back to the locker room at the start of the fourth quarter. That naturally raised questions, but without an official medical update, it is important not to jump beyond what was actually observed. What stood out just as much was that Clark still finished with 20 points, which speaks to both her competitiveness and her ability to stay effective even while dealing with visible discomfort. From a basketball standpoint, the bigger picture is clear. The core group did enough offensively to put the game within reach. Kelsey Mitchell provided scoring, Aaliyah Boston controlled key stretches inside, and Clark kept the offense moving. Where the game slipped was in the margins: bench production, defensive resistance late, and the inability to close possessions in winning moments. That is where the real pressure now shifts toward head coach Stephanie White and the adjustments the staff makes heading into the next matchup against the Atlanta Dream. Because if the stars are producing and the results still are not there, the conversation quickly turns from talent to execution.